The program you're about to watch is an expose of the firestorms that impacted on the A.C.T. community in 2003. Those fires were burning in the ranges for 10 days before hitting the back of the urban interface areas. Firestorms are created when large fires combine together and create their own weather systems. It is important for us to learn from previous experience and understand the impacts of such fires on our community. As a community, we need to work together and prepare for large bushfires. Fire services, land managers, all do their bit to prepare for fire emergencies, but the community really needs to be prepared as well.
I have flame height probably over 100 feet on Warrigan.
In my assessment, there must be hundreds dead.
I said, Mary, I don't think we're going to get through this. I want you to tell the children every day how much we love them.
I'm set. Corey Tower White.
Go ahead, Corey.
I have 2 columns of smoke. One's in New South Wales. The other one's at 180 degrees, 30 to 40 kilometres. Over.
We first became involved in the 2003 fires on January the 8th when a dry lightning storm passed over Canberra. Some fires had started out to the west, particularly around McIntyre's hut and out at Bandora. So I left work, and as I got to my car I could already see the large smoke columns that had happened or started over, particularly the McIntyre's hut fire, was starting to grow quite big. So we went straight up to the shed. We stood up a unit.
Comsen calling Rivers 10, fire call.
Comsen Rivers 10 receiving.
Sarah, could you respond to Stockyard Spur?
We were then responded up to the Stockyard Spur fire.
Comsen, Cowan Tower Blue.
Cowan Tower.
Yeah, I've got a first smoke sighting on a bearing of 269 degrees, probably 50 to 60 kilometres from here on the horizon.
Park 6010.
Park 6 receiving.
Yes, Rick, in our location we've got this fire going across the road. We've got a couple of spillovers and we've got some quite intense flames coming up the hill over. So we'll try and control it, but the authorities have stuff already gone across the road, Rick. That's 50 metres above us.
Righto, out to you, Oscar 6, Park 6. Oscar 6. Yeah, we've got to have a chopper ASAP for a water dump. We've had a spot over on the far end of the fire on Shallow Road. We'll lose all our good work if we don't get a chopper there ASAP. Firebird 7. We need an ambulance down at the Bandora Dam. We've got a helicopter in the water. Watch that. Staging area, this is Oscar 8, over.
Go ahead, Oscar 8, over.
That's the ambulance to Bandora Dam. There's a helicopter in the water, over.
My whole sort of thing around the Stockyard Spur fire was to contain it within a very small portion of the southern Namadgi area, working in conjunction with New South Wales Brigade. We were to burn out quite a few hectares of land in that process, so there was a lot of planning going in to where we set fire lines and where we were putting trails in and to contain this fire. It was our last fallback to actually stop it continuing right through the southern end of Namadgi. The truck was to go into Lick Hole, where we were going to burn from the backwaters of Corrin Dam, and there was a small bridge on Lick Hole, and the tanker actually just got to the side of it, and the bridge gave way. The bridge gave way, toppling the tanker into the creek, not completely rolling. It was held up by a tree through the passenger side window, and that blocked our actual escape route.
Firecom 1382.
102, I've got a message that we've had a call that there's a house alight in the Uriara Forest at Brindabella Mountain. I have a contact number.
On the 17th of January, I was still up on top of the range where they were doing some burning off. Up at the Bull's Head, we were doing some burning off, and they were trying to put in a control line along through there. And I was an officer in charge of a group of burners. We burnt through the night, and about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, that wind started to come in from the west, and I suspended burning at that time.
Stand 507.
This contact, go ahead, 507.
Give me a bit of a sit report on this, what you might call a spot over, but look, it's gone, it's well and truly gone. It starts at being the dam wall, it's crowning, and I'll try and get through it, but it looks like it's probably spread for some considerable miles, and it's probably already 2 kilometres off the dam travelling east, and it's a massive fire.
I'd been up all night on the Thursday night up on the Bendora fire, and got home about 1 o'clock Friday afternoon, realised that the fires had jumped and were gone. They were sort of on their way, but I expected Saturday afternoon, sort of maybe Sunday, but yeah, they hit us on the Friday night. So.
And then things were falling on the lawn, and we thought, what's that? And we went out, and they were little burnt leaves and sticks, and we thought, oh. And then sort of stepped out a bit further and looked over the roof, and there was this sort of glow in the sky. And I thought, oh, okay. And then it all just suddenly happened, very, very quickly. I actually rang my girlfriend, a very dear friend of mine, Mary. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I said to her, I rang her at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said, Mary, I don't think we're going to get through this. And I said, if anything happens to Steve and I, if we don't make it, I want you to tell the children every day how much we love them. Because I really, at that stage, I just thought, you know, it was just so, you know, the vastness of it was so big, and I just thought, how can our house, how can we withstand this thing coming towards us? It was like this horrible creature.
Sam, I've got numerous houses alive here. Get me some more help, please.
I got a phone call about 8:30 in the morning from Assistant Commissioner Fitzsimmons, who was calling on behalf of the Commissioner. Shane was the Director of Operations, I was Director of Strategy. And the request was to respond to Canberra to see if we could provide any further assistance on the day, given that our reading of the situation was that it was fairly dire and the weather forecasting conditions were conducive to fairly intense running of fire into urban interface.
It was a mixture of frantic activity in some areas, houses well alight. I still recall that it's still a well-known vision, I guess, of that fire truck burning, and that was one of the first things we saw, and we're thinking, geez, you know, this isn't good.
I came up at the request of Region South to help manage the base camp at Base Camp Stromlo. On the day of the fire, on the 18th, we were in changeover mode. Everyone was very apprehensive because we were sending crews back to Sydney, and we were waiting to get new crews down. We just put out on each of the beds fresh sleeping bags, brand new sleeping bags, towels, all this sort of stuff.
I said to my neighbour, I said, let's go up, we'll see these New South Wales firefighters, because they had the 2 great big marquees there. They were enormous. When it hit the trees, it just went bang, and then another one went over the top of us. It was just after that we heard the big explosion. I think that might have been the one that hit Duffy service station, blew up the service station. Anyhow, I looked up and the big marquees are all gone. They're flattened and been burnt to the ground. And all their beds and pillows and that with the wind all blew up against our houses. Well, the one next to me, he copped it. We lost it. There was nothing I could do there. I went around them, but there was just nothing I could do. I raced back to my own place and putting everything out and raking these pillows and sleeping bags off the wall of the house. Anyhow, I finished up, saved my place.
Our crews had waited till virtually the last minute, and then Jeff gave the signal, fired the sirens. When the sirens went, everyone was to leave. That meant all the houses, everything were evacuated, and the vehicle I had was used to evacuate a family, I know that.
My house wasn't too bad. My parents' house was, at that stage, being impacted by the fire. Did what we could there, sort of got some support there to help that one out. My family were all okay, as fortunately there was no major injuries there. Put a couple of little fires out at my house, assisted with the main burn at my parents' house, and we more or less got that under control. Had a report of an injured horse, a badly injured horse, which was my kid's pony. Went down the house, got a rifle, drove up the paddock, found the horse, put the horse down. It was a mess. Made sure everyone was right once again, and then went back and rejoined my teams, crews, tried to do what we could do.
Try and set up lines of attack using the hydrant system and protect all the urban area on the interface here.
What are the residents going to do?
The residents have been out watering down their lawns, and I'm suggesting to them they go inside and lock up while this fire front comes through. We'll do a patrol down the street to make sure everything is okay. If there's any fires, they've been told to come out in the street and report it to us almost immediately as possible.
About 2/3 of the way down Warwick. I have flame height, probably over 100 feet on Warwick Drive, impacting houses over. If I can get anything.
Constance, this is a rare situation. We need some funders here urgently.
I'm down 7 power lights down on Eagle Drive, depot's gone. 3 is on site, wind Camber 20 on Warwick Amber.
A very clear recollection of the day. I drove through the area later that afternoon and reported back to the then Commissioner of the Royal Fire Service that in my assessment there must be hundreds dead with the amount of property alight, service stations alight, fire pumpers alight, everything was alight, and I said there must be hundreds dead here.
I picked up Richard Moran, the cameraman from Channel 9, and told him to jump in. And my task at that stage was to see how the fire was going to impact upon the urban area when it left the pine forest on the Duffy interface. And I thought, well, one, he shouldn't have been standing on the intersection where he was. His car was some way down the street. And secondly, it was probably going to give him a good opportunity to get a bit of footage. My idea was to go down, check the fire, come back, take him back to his car and drop him off. But things snowballed completely out of control after we drove down Yukonbean Drive.
We didn't realise the impact it was going to have. I'll be lying to you if I said that. We watched it, and then when we moved through that pine forest, because we came from the pine forest side of Duffy, the rural side of Duffy, and into that intersection at Duffy where it basically came through the pine forest and hit into these suburbs. And when we landed there, or when we drove into there and saw the police blocking off roads and the fire department setting up a sort of a recon site and listening to their conversations and filming them, we realised what was about to come. And I guess the decision was then, either try and get in with the fire department or I go into somebody's house. And I know if Daryl hadn't have helped me out and let me into his vehicle, I would have gone into someone's house and held cover until the fire passed over, like some of the residents that stayed did.
I started watching the flames come up over Mount Stromlo, and they were getting higher and higher, and I was just amazed that we were getting the type of impact that was coming at us, because I didn't evaluate that the fuel loading was going to produce such a strong impact. I started getting very concerned as the darker it got and the higher the flames got.
Probably over 100 feet on Warwick Drive.
Okay, all units on Yukonbean Drive.
It's going across into the pine forest on the southern edge of Evergreen Drive. Comes in 2 houses alone, 3 houses alone. Okay, we've got fire up to the edge. Comes in, this is a red situation. We need some pumpers here urgently.
What I vividly remember is hearing the radio conversations, between the fire department, appliances and Daryl, and, hearing the, not what you'd normally hear, some real, I guess, I don't want to use the word frightened, but, anxious words from one of the trucks that was stuck on that main road, and basically they'd stopped working mechanically.
Bravo 3, Compton, Mayday urgent, Bravo 3, engine warning lights come on, engines cut out, we have no engine.
How are you, Bravo 3?
And, and then we drove up to them, we found them. They were only probably 600-700 metres away, but you couldn't really see anything.
The truck was alight, the interior of the truck was starting to smoke up. The temperature outside was horrendous, so the guys needed to be evacuated, which we did. I got them into the car and then drove well down into the suburbs where we put together some type of plan to try and rescue that truck, mainly because resources were so scarce on the day that it was one resource I didn't want to lose. However, 2 guys tried to roll the truck away, and they got down, it rolled it onto a bridge over a walkway, and of course it was a flat area, that's as far as it went, and they just couldn't budge it from there. So unfortunately the truck did get totally destroyed by fire.
Burnsy here with you? No, he's not, mate.
Comes in, we've got 2 firefighters on the count floor. The 2 firemen were very lucky. They were picked up by a passerby, taken out of the fire zone, and then later on brought back in by another officer.
Bravo 7 pumper has no power, we may be able to operate the pump, over. Canberra 20 to Delta 4, message.
Go ahead, 20.
Shadow, we've lost brakes in Canberra 20. The only way I've got to stop it is using the handbrake. So we're basically, you got a full tank of water but can't stop the friggin' truck. Where do you want us?
Okay, Jim, I've got a number of houses alight. Find one and start putting it out, please.
Hey, Red, we're stuck on Warragamba.
They're stuck on Warragamba.
We're all stuck on Warragamba. Okay, I've got numerous houses alight. I've got houses in the back street alight. I've got yards burning. I really need some urban pumpers here, and I'm not joking, I really need some urban pumpers. I've got houses alight everywhere.
Hey, John, before you get 2 more on the way now, that's the best we can do at this stage.
After it had passed over and we could move back through the neighbourhood was driving through the neighbourhood, and the people who did stay coming out of their houses and seemed, a little dazed, as you understand, and a gentleman coming out, with a pot in his hand, and basically Daryl pulling up and calling to him, to get into the car because he needed to get out, because virtually every house in that street that he was standing on was well alight. And they got firemen with him.
Yeah, where are you, Daryl? Still on you, can they drive?
Take this truck. Do what you can.
Yep. Good luck, boys.
20.
So we stopped and picked him up. He climbed into the back of the car, and as I then proceeded down Yukonbean, I over the noise of the car, the radios, the wind and the roar of the fire, I could hear this guy rasping with each breath, and I thought that he had seriously injured himself in his lungs from breathing in the superheated gases that were outside at the time, which can be very serious. So I rushed him down to a waiting ambulance because the ambos had set up a staging area just on the outskirts of the Duffy.
For a cameraman, I guess it was, I was in the right place to take some amazing pictures, and I vividly remember a lot of the stuff. I don't remember the sort of all the timelines; they sort of became a bit of a blur. But I can remember some of the, some of the things that I saw that day, and it was it was an amazing thing to see Mother Nature at her fiercest.
There was some really worrying times to try and get onto family and all the rest of it. And when I finally got onto Jamie, he said that that the back shed had caught fire, but I think he was trying to sort of protect me a little bit from knowing that that the house had actually caught fire. But anyway, so through the night, and then Mike McCall actually I think came in and saw me at one stage, and he said that that early reports were that the cars at the shed had all burnt, but I specifically said, "Oh, did my car burn?" And he wouldn't sort of say. He said, "Oh, well, we don't know. Nobody's got there yet. We think that they've all gone." I fully expect that the house had been involved in a fire, but again, you sort of expect to see the house sort of still standing. The whole suburb was just decimated. It was just like a bomb had gone off, and there was just rubble left where all these houses were, and this is street after street after street. So we finally got into our street, and the house was just completely. It was just rubble. It was just amazing that there was just nothing left. Fridges, major household appliances is just gone. They just disappeared off the face of the earth.
In our base camp, the cool rooms would have been a good place to shelter. Our shower block still had paper and plastic towels on the floor. The insulated shower block container would have been a perfect place. Anyone could have lived in there. Anyhow, sadly, Dolly was only 100 metres from there. We didn't know Dolly was there, of course, and that's the tragedy of it. If we'd have only known, we wouldn't have lost Dolly. No, when you lose someone, it's never over. And I've done road accidents, and I can still visualise those people we lost. Not our fault, but could we have done more? In Canberra, not our fault, but that little truck we had, and the few guys we had, and the crew I had, with Barry and Steve, fantastic. Couldn't have done more. So you've got to look at it and say, well, what more could I have done? Nothing. And just say, well, we did our bit, we tried hard, but you'd never forget it.
When I joined the brigade, it was you're always taught that you can do something about everything. You're a firefighter. You can, you've got trucks and you've got hoses and you've got tools that stop this thing from happening. And it hadn't happened. And I guess seeing those badly burnt people, I remember apologising to people in the hospital, saying, I'm sorry this happened to you because we were there to try and stop you from, this shouldn't happen.